Okay, so tonight, or today rather, I'm going to tie what we affectionately term the Bob Scud. This fly was first tied in this manner by a friend of ours named Bob Bryce from Lethbridge, Alberta. But anyway, to start, I'm just happening, this is a size 14 and I'm going to be using this Fulling Mill FM 5000 hook. It's a heavyweight champ hook. It's got a great holding power. It's a strong hook, straight eye, but it's a good one. Going to be using fluorescent orange in a UTC 70, and this is going to be tied with Awesome Possum. This happens to be, color is bleached ginger, and that's the original pattern. I tie these not only with orange thread, but I tie them with red thread and olive thread. Those are probably my three most common. Once in a while I'll tie them with a wine colored thread as well. So let's just get started on this thing. We'll put this hook in the vise, and first thing we do is we just wrap, just lay down a base of thread here, back to just, you can even go a little bit past the bend of the hook. It's not super critical, but I tighten that up just as I prepare to start dubbing. I'll tighten that thread up, just twist it up, spinning it clockwise, so that'll basically cord that UTC thread back up. And then I just take, whatever you need. And the way that I do this is I hold this, it kind of hold the bobbin in my hand down here. It's hard to see on here. And I put this underneath, and I just hold this right up under the thread. And you don't want to, I just kind of pick this off. You don't want to do massive clumps of this. It takes quite a bit of dubbing, but you don't want to try to put a ton on at one time. You can see I'm just making a pretty small noodle, and it takes a bit of dubbing. So you just pull this off, just come down here a ways. And I'll make a fairly long noodle actually out of this, but I don't use a dubbing loop of any kind. This stuff twists on. If you wet your fingers, it twists on super easily. And then we just come back here and we just start tying this up. And the way I do this is I wrap forward about halfway, then I wrap back, because I want quite a bit of dubbing on this, and wrap back a little bit, so you can see it starts to build up a pretty good amount there. And here we come, and just come forward, and then we can see that's pretty good. I don't know, you can see that it's pretty good amount. I couldn't figure out how to make my camera go bigger. I wish I could, but I didn't quite see that. So anyway, once we get to there, just take a little bit more dubbing, start creating another dubbing, some more dubbing, and I'll go about twice of what I did the first time. Pretty close, I guess. It's a super simple pattern to tie. I mean, there's not a lot to it. It's just more time than anything, because you do use quite a bit of dummy, so it takes a minute to tie it, but it's about as simple as it gets. And then you just kind of tie that on. I like to, on my dubbing, as you'll notice, I'll take and wrap that on and just kind of continue to push that over a little bit. We probably got a little bit, I'll just wrap back in the middle there. Probably got maybe a tiny bit too much dubbing on that one. I'll pull that off. And then I take this and I just kind of push back on that, make sure I've got enough head exposed, enough of the hook, so I can actually tie a head on. And then just tie a decent, just make a head of your thread. Make sure you don't, tie over your hook. But I like to build up a bit of a head on these, so it acts kind of as a hot spot. But that's pretty much, as you can see right there, just tie like that. And then I usually, people do a lot of different, but I just always, on my flies, I just take a little bit of super glue right there. That way I know that's never going to come undone, and I just maybe do a 3 or 4 turn whip finish. Tighten it up, and that is the first part. So we're done tying. Then I just take you can either take a popsicle stick with, you guys can see that's a popsicle stick with some Velcro on it, and that works fine too. Or you can take like this happens to be I think a 223 caliber, an old brush for cleaning rifles, and it seems to work pretty good. So then what I do is I just go on both sides of this, and just kind of brush down. I just brush down on both sides. It lets you see that, and I take my finger and I push my finger against it right here and brush on this side. That way I tend not to bend my hook, or I do the same thing on this side. I'll put my thumb against it and just brush it down like this. That way I'm not flipping around. But then, as you can see, as it's brushed down, you get that hair hanging out. So the last thing you do with this fly is you take it out of the hook. And I just cut it straight on the bottom. Boom, just like that. We'll put it back in the vise so you can see it. And that is it. Just cut it off straight on the bottom. That's a Bob Scud. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Tie some up, fish them on the green. I mean, I've caught fish on this fly everywhere I've ever fished it. Alberta, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, just about anywhere I've ever fished this. And if you tie this with a green head, it really, green or even gray or red, I mean, it imitates a scud, it imitates a sow bug. It's just a super simple pattern, but there's been times on the green I fished with two or three of these and just pounded the fish. Anyway, that's the Bob Scud.